A storage unit that hadn't been opened in 14 years, sold at auction for $800, and the man who owned it had been living out of his truck for 6 weeks. Warren Locke had spent 18 years restoring antique instruments before his shop lost its lease, and the week he fell behind on the storage bill, an auctioneer sold the whole unit to a stranger for less than his monthly rent used to be. His daughter Bertie was 8, and she carried a stuffed sparrow named Whistle into the auction lot the morning they watched strangers carry boxes to a truck. "Nothing in there but junk and dust," said auctioneer Grady Pruitt, counting his cash. 3 weeks later, every serious collector in the country wanted what was inside. Stay till the end, you'll see exactly why. The auction happened on a gravel lot behind the storage facility, a dozen bargain hunters watching from folding chairs. Pruitt held up the unit's padlock like a trophy, voice loud enough to carry across the lot. 18 years in a shop and you couldn't even keep current on a storage bill, he said, chuckling. If that's what happens to men who fall behind. Warren didn't argue. He folded his arms once, shifted his weight twice, then stepped back from the gate a third time. Bertie sat in the truck bed, Whistle clutched to her chest, watching her father say nothing back. Warren walked to his truck without another word. Nobody in that lot offered him a hand. His wife had been gone 11 months. That was the only sentence he let himself say about it. The truck's gas gauge sat under a quarter tank most weeks, and Bertie's jacket sleeves stopped 2 inches short of her wrists. Sal Farrow, an old instrument dealer who used to buy from Warren's shop, was the only one who still called him by his real trade over the phone. "You never told anyone what was really in that unit," Sal said one night. "Did you forget, or did you just stop mentioning it?" Warren didn't answer right away. That evening, he knelt in the truck's cab to tuck Whistle under Bertie's arm before she slept. The same fold every night, wings first, then the beak. "Daddy," she said, "you keep staring at that old notebook like it's got secrets in it." He turned off the flashlight without a word. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow he'd finally say what he'd been carrying. Inside that unit sat 6 violins Warren had restored himself over a decade, each one built on a body blank salvaged from a workshop that closed in 1974, a workshop once owned by a luthier whose remaining instruments were worth more than most collectors realized. Warren had logged every restoration by hand in his own notebook, not the shop's old ledger, his own, kept for 18 years out of habit. A maker's mark hidden under the tailpiece of each instrument, not visible unless you knew exactly where to look. Not a rumor. A record, dated and initialed, 1 entry per violin. Pruitt had waved off Warren's one attempt to explain the unit's contents before the sale, calling it a sob story from a man behind on his bill. Now the stranger who bought the unit had posted photos online, and violin dealers across 3 continents recognized the maker's mark within days. Warren sat in the truck's cab with Bertie asleep in the back seat and pulled out his restoration notebook, page after page, dated and signed, a record 18 years deep. He said one line to Sal over the phone, quiet, near midnight. "If nobody proves those are mine, I lose everything I have left." He photographed every notebook page at the public library the next morning, sorted by date, and emailed the file to 3 verified appraisers before the day ended. He didn't wait for a lawyer. He drove straight to the address the buyer had posted online and knocked on the door himself. By the end of that week, an appraisal panel had convened around the 6 violins laid out on a velvet cloth. "This tailpiece marking," said appraiser Colette Ruiz, tapping one instrument twice, "matches restoration records from a shop that closed 50 years ago." The buyer, a young flipper named Todd Whitmore, reached for the case. I bought this fair. This doesn't prove." "The notebook is dated and notarized," Colette said. He had nothing after that. Sal, standing beside her, spoke up. "Warren logged every stroke of restoration work for a decade," Sal said. "Nobody could fake that kind of record after the fact." Colette closed her appraisal folder slowly and looked toward the doorway, where Warren stood in his work jacket, Whistle visible in Bertie's arms behind him out of habit. "You documented all of this on your own time, with nothing to gain," she said. "Not a question." "Somebody had to," Warren said. "I just wrote down what the wood already knew. The 6 violins sold at a specialty auction for a combined total near $200,000. Whitmore had no paperwork left to argue with. Colette found Warren at a motel a week later, Bertie sitting on the bed with Whistle in her lap. "There's a partnership," Colette said. "A restoration house wants your name on their authentication team. One condition: you keep documenting everything the way you always have, since that's what makes your word worth something." Warren didn't answer right away. Colette crouched down instead, knees against the motel's thin carpet, eye to eye with an 8-year-old and a worn stuffed sparrow missing one wing feather. "Your dad kept something alive that everyone else had given up on," she said softly. Bertie looked at her, then at her father, then back. "I know," she said. He already knew the violins were special. He just needed somebody else to believe him. Warren knelt down too, retying the loose thread on Whistle's wing, and reached for the motel key sitting on the nightstand beside them.